Hey, what's up guys, this is Mishire. I'm doing a video here on macros. So macros aren't super exciting, but they're really useful, and if you don't use any macros, even as a Warlock, I'm playing Warlock right now, Destruction Warlock, you probably should be using macros. I'll show you the ones that I use and why I use them, and I'll just give you some quick tips on how to set them up. But if you really want more information, you should probably go online and look up how to program or write up little scripts for macros. But I'm going to show you all the ones that I use. Some people were asking about it. Go down the list here. I'm just going to go through all my macros here one by one and talk about them. The first one is this macro right here, which is Cinge Magic for your imp. This is really important if you do arena. So if you play arena and you're playing against mages, you're probably going to be using an imp. And the reason you use an imp is because you want to remove polymorph off yourself or your friend. So you want to make sure you have a macro, and it should be key-binded probably, that will remove macros. That will remove polymorph or fear. You can also use it for fear. In this case, you can put a specific name. So this is my friend Takta, and you can put in brackets target equals and put their name, exactly their name, and then cast the spell. So this will target Takta and cast Cinge Magic. So if I'm using my imp and I push the button or push the hotkey, it will remove polymorph off of her. It's really, really, really important that you have something like that right here. Super simple if you're doing arena. We're gonna go down the line. Script pet dismiss. Now I don't know if there's actually a key binding for this. If there's not, just make the macro just like I did here. I like to throw in the Grimoire of Sacrifice in case I have it selected. This is like a little simple if command. You're going to see this a lot. So if I have talent 6-3, that's row 6, talent 3, it will use the Grimoire of Sacrifice, and it will always dismiss my pet. Now, why would you want to dismiss your pet? It's actually really important. If you have a succubus, like I do most of the time, and you're trying to get away from someone who's probably going to kill you, say it was an added player and you're just low on life, or you know they're going to beat you. What you do is just seduce them, right? You seduce them and you start running away. Well, once you start running away and you get in your distance, you want to mount up so you can fly away or run away. But you're not going to be able to mount up if you're still in combat. And if you have your pet out, your pet can be attacked by the player. And if the player is attacking your pet, they're going to keep you in combat. So you want to dismiss your pet. And it's a quick little macro. You can hotkey that. I use B4 and B5. This would be button 4, button 5 on my mouse. If you're not using a mouse with extra buttons, I highly recommend it. Some people use only mouse and use like 10 buttons. I like to just use the middle mouse, button 4 and button 5. This is pretty complex, but I'll tell you exactly what it's doing here. The first one is actually 2 lines. These 2 lines go together that I just highlighted. It's going to target an enemy, the nearest enemy, if these other things, these are little if commands, if they are true. So you're going to see this a lot, and you can make a spell. I would actually make a macro. I have a macros for several of my spells that do this, but my main spells that I use in my first cast are B4 and B5. So if the first one, I'll just talk about what these each do, but you can put this in and then put your spell afterwards. The first one says, if the target that I'm targeting at target doesn't exist, no exists, and the target, or if the target that I'm targeting is dead, or the target that I'm targeting is help, that means they're an ally that I can heal, that I can help, like they're not an enemy, there's help or harm, then it will target the enemy. So in this case, you put the if commands after target enemy. Usually you put it before, and I'll show you the example in the next line. The next line says cast, and then you have your if commands, then you have your spell. So cast at the target if the target exists, and if the target can be harmed, and if my talent is 1-3, and if my spec is Destro, that's what this little spec is, Shadowburn. The semicolon goes to the next option if this one isn't true. Next option is if my spec is still Destro, 3, cast Conflag. And the next option, another semicolon, is if I don't have any of those are true, then cast Demon Bolt. And I just added that in because I was trying Demonology yesterday. You can make it however you want. The next line is just for fun. This is a toy that I use, the Totem of Spirits. You might have seen it in my other videos. And I placed that down. It doesn't actually take any time. It just puts down while I cast. The next line is very useful in PvE. It's not going to work against players because you can't use raid icons against players. But you can put raid icons on allies and against mobs. And this one will put a skull on a mob. I'll give you an example of how this works. This is B4. We'll just target this guy. I'm going to click B4. Actually, I won't target anyone. I need an enemy around here. I don't have anybody who's red. I'm not going to show you the full action, but I'm going to show you how it puts the skull on their head. Well, I just totally didn't do it right. It didn't work. So, you know, I remember there was a change in this. Let me see. You know what? I'm going to have to look at that later. I think they changed the run to runs, or they changed runs to run. So there may be a little error here. But the general idea is you can actually macro in that you can put a skull on someone's head or put a raid icon on their head. It's going to come in handy in a minute. I'm going to talk about. This is similar. This is my B5. It's a similar line. If you target the enemy, if they don't exist, or if they're dead, and if they do exist, to cast a certain spell if I'm in a certain spec. If I'm in a different spec, cast a different spell. You can make it however you want depending on what spell you're trying to cast. This is a similar one where if you have one talent, use Demon Fire. If you have a different talent, use your Burst, Dark Soul Instability. It's probably one that everybody should probably have. Now you only need this if you're going to use the same hotkey for the same button for the spells. So if you have a different button for Channel Demon Fire and a different button for your Dark Soul Instability, then you don't need a macro. But if you like to use the same key, depending on what spec you are, then you're going to want a macro like this. This is a useful one for Havoc. So if you cast Havoc, put /focus. It will also create a focus when you cast Havoc. I'll give you an example of that really fast. I'm going to put Havoc on this guy, and you can see on the left side of my screen, this is my focus screen. All of a sudden shows up, and now I have him focused, and I can target someone else. So there's my one target, and there's my second target, and I can kill them both at the same time. And after he dies, the focus disappears. So it's nice and handy just to let you know that Havoc's on someone, and you can see the cooldown right there too, and you can see how long it's lasting. I really recommend this. Cast Havoc. This again didn't work, but it could put a icon on them. I'm gonna have to look at it and see why it's not working. So when I Havoc someone, it puts icon on them. It's not gonna work against players. You can't put icons on players, and there's something wrong with this. So don't copy this exactly. But that's when you Havoc one person, put a big old icon over their head, target someone else, and now you focus them, so you know you have them Havoc. Okay, this is another similar one. Cast one thing if I have one talent, another thing if I have a different talent. This is also similar. We'll just go down these lines and talk about them. Pet attack. The /pet attack is how you do pet attack. There is a macro. I mean, there is a key binding for pet attack. You can just key bind it, but it's nicer to just put it into a macro, because you can actually have your pet attack and cast a spell at the same time. So why would you have to push two buttons when you could just push one? So put your pet attack in with one of your main spells. You may not want that because you may want to attack one person to keep your pet on someone else. But usually I just throw pet attack in with my main attack, especially if you're just doing PvE and just killing stuff or leveling up. Just cast once you're casting Immolate, pet attacks every time you cast Immolate. Now there is the assist option, but the assist is sort of delayed, so it might not attack until you get into combat. So you always just want to send them in, pet attack right away. And since we're talking about pets, I'm going to talk about two other things with pets that are really highly recommend. One is pet follow. This is the command, /pet follow. I don't know why I have it in here twice, but you want to hotkey pet follow. You could come down here and push the little button, you see my mouse, and say, here it is, follow, and you could press it. So he's in combat, your pet's in combat, but you don't want him to be in combat, you want him to follow you. Say you're running away, you're trying to get out of combat. It's really important to get him to follow you. So instead of clicking this while you're trying to do other stuff on your screen, just hotkey it, /pet follow. I have mine as X, you can see. And as you're running away, just press X and he'll follow you, even if he was doing something else before. So say he was attacking this, and I can just press X and he'll start following me. It'll help me get out of combat sooner, and it'll help me run away. It's really useful. Similarly, there's move to. I use Z, and this is the command /pet move to. You can also just click it, click the move to, and tell him where to move. Or you can hotkey it, and it's a lot easier if you just have a key binding and it's on a macro. So there's your pet commands. I think we went over most of these here. If you have a trinket, this is a really good one. I highly recommend using this in arena. This one will use your gladiator's trinket, and then it will also target someone near you if you don't already have a target, and it will instantly mortal coil them. You can change mortal coil to fear if you want. Right now I have an immortal coil. So the idea here is that if you know there's a rogue nearby, or you know there's a druid nearby, and you know they're about to jump you and stun you with a 6-second stun, then you just wait for them to attack you, and then instantly you just press this button. It'll use your trinket and it'll cast mortal coil at the same time, and then you can fear them or whatever you want to do. It'll reduce their time to put bleeds on you or poisons on you or whatever. It's really useful if you know that you're about to get jumped. You know you're going to want to use your trinket. One button click, and you trinket and mortal coil them in the same button, because you can use your gladiator's medallion and you can coil them. And this one will also target them, because if there's a rogue and a druid, you don't have them targeted when they jump you. So instead of having to click on them, then having to use your trinket, then having to mortal coil, just one button. You can hotkey this. You can hotkey this to F. You can hotkey this to your key bindings. And as soon as they attack you, bam, press the button, and they're death coiled, and then you can fear them, and now you have the upper hand. Really useful. So there it is one more time. I'm gonna go through these general macros. Some of these are just not important. They don't mean anything, but some of them can be quite useful. Here's a useful one right here. Click static pop-up button 1. If you're buying a whole bunch of stuff, or you're trying to do a lot of things at once, like I think I was spending a whole bunch of currency once just buying the same thing over and over, You can just make this macro, hotkey it to something like F, and then instead of having to go and click the button with your mouse, you just press your key binding over and over and over. Very useful. This one is used with the add-on Move Anything, and I'm going to make a video about add-ons once again, but I do have a video up already about add-ons. And this one will hide my quest objectives. You look in my top right corner, I have it hotkeyed. You know, I actually need to get out of that because otherwise I'm going to type into it. I have it hotkeyed, and I press it, and it hides it. Now you can do this for anything. I can hide my Minimap, I'll show that in a second. I could hide my chat, but I like to just hide this quest objective. Now of course you could just come up here and click it, but it's nicer just to have it completely clean and hide it off. And this works with Move Anything. I'm pretty sure this will only work with Move Anything, but get the Move Anything add-on. It's a great add-on for customizing your interface. If you're an engineer and use your belt, /use 6, I like to use the icon with the sprint. You can see it right here. Reminds me to sprint once in a while because I do play a rogue sometimes. If you have a cloak, it's use 15. But you want to add this extra, you want to make a macro out of this. And the reason is you want to add remove Aurora Nitro Boost. And the reason for this is about 2 years ago they made it so you can no longer use your glider, or maybe it was always like this since they introduced the glider because you used to parachute, right? You can no longer use your glider and Nitro Boost at the same time. So what this will do is it will, if I'm using my Nitro Boosts, then it, see, and I'm trying to use my cape. My cape won't work, but I can remove my cape, remove the Nitro Boost buff, and then use my glider. So remove Nitro Boost. If you use this /remove Aurora, you can remove any buff that you have if you want to remove it. So that works really nicely there. Alright, now let's talk about making your interface nice and clean when you're trying to take a picture or something. There is a key binding for hiding your interface, which is nice and all, but it's not good enough to me. Because when I hide my interface, I want to get rid of all these names. Look at all these yellow names everywhere. And if you're with players, there's going to be players around you, and they're going to have names. So I have a macro that, well, I have him targeted, but I have a macro that will, oh, now I just screwed it up. But it usually works pretty well. And there you go. It hides everybody. See, and now you don't have any names either. So it hides the names and it hides the interface at the same time. Hey, we got a chest here. So let's show you what that macro looks like. There's a couple different ones that I use, but the hide everything one is here. And this is a little complex. This first line right here is your hide interface. Toggle frame UI parent. This line here is hiding friendly name, pet names, hiding enemy names, player names, and hiding friendly player names, and hiding NPC names. So you can look this up online and try to find one on your own. But what you want to do is you want to hide the names, and then you can add it in with your UI to hide your interface. Now I also use this for just hiding NPC names, which works really well. I'm using it right now, and this will work just for NPCs, not enemies. So so if there's players, it won't hide the players' names. This is really useful for role PvP. Just totally listen for a second. There's a bunch of NPCs and there's a bunch of names. Now say I'm flying around. And I'm flying around the world, and there's all this red everywhere on my screen. But I want to find one player, one enemy player. I'm trying to kill him because I know he's here. I'm looking for him. And to get rid of all the red, you can just push your macro, and it will delete all their names and only show you the player names. And it's very, very useful. And I'll show you what I use for that command. It's right here. And that's this right here. It's really simple, a real simple one. So basically, this just hides all the NPC names. So if the NPCs are showing, it turns them off. If they're not showing, it turns them on. And you can turn it on and off with the click of a button. So we're almost done. Not too much more to go here. Here's a good one for fear, or for anything in fact. This is an if command. You put the little harm here. So if you can harm them, it'll cast fear. Now I'm gonna edit this to show you how it works. You could add help heal. Now I'm just putting heal. I know that's not a real ability, but say you have or shield, shadow, power shield for a priest. You can, so if you're targeting someone and they're you can harm them, it'll fear them, and if you can help them, it'll heal them. So this is how it works for a healer. You want to use the help and harm. So for the same button will harm one person, and the same button will help someone else. There's actually some other really good. I'm going to do a macro. I'm going to show you the healing macros really fast. You can cast something at the target of the target. So say you're a healer and you're targeting a monster and you're attacking it sometimes. So if you could harm him, you'll attack him with a harmful spell. Okay, and if you can help him, if it's an ally and you can help him, you'll cast your heal spell on him. And if he's an enemy, or if you want, if he's an enemy, and the target of your enemy, target is, and the enemy you're targeting is harmful, then it will cast a healing spell. So that way you can target the enemy, and if they're attacking your friend, it will just heal them automatically. Or if you have nothing else, you can target. It will cast on yourself at player heal myself, and that at player is you. You can also do target equals, for example, Mishire. Target equals Mishire, then it will heal myself. Now these are obviously not real spells, but this is the gist of it. You should look this up if you're a healer. There's one other thing I want to talk about, and that's stances. So for example, a rogue. In fact, I think I have some prepared already, because I do play rogue sometimes. You want to use something like this. One button will stealth you if you're not stealth, and then it will shadow step you and use your shadow step ability if you are stealth. Here's another example. If you're not in combat, it will stealth, otherwise it'll shadow dance, and then it will also cheap shot. Another example, if you're not in combat, it will stealth, otherwise it will vanish. So there's little, you can use these little if commands for your stances, and you can also do this for your warriors and for your druids. It's really important. If you're playing a rogue or a druid or anything with stances, you want to have these little if command abilities, because that way you don't have to have so many hotkeys. You can use the same button, the same key binding to do different things depending on what stance you're in. So if I'm a rogue and I'm stealth, I'll use one ability, but if I'm not stealth, I'll use another ability. If I'm shadow dancing, I'll do one thing. If I'm not shadow dancing, I'll do something else. If I'm a warrior and I'm a defensive stance, I'll do one thing. So there's not too many if commands we can use these days, but that is one of them. A big one is if you're in combat. I use this a lot. If I'm in combat, it'll do one thing. If I'm not in combat, I'll do another. I'll talk about my middle mouse button, for example. There's a lot of things going on here. So I use this for fishing. So if I'm not in combat and I don't have a target, I'll start fishing. I'll show you right now. So I have a target, so let me take my target off, push the middle mouse, and it'll fish because I'm not in combat. If I have a target, it won't fish. It'll attack him. See? Now it's attacking him. It's telling my pet to attack him too. So it does one thing if I have a target. It does something else if I don't have a target. And it does one thing if I'm in combat. It does something else if I'm not in combat. I use my middle mouse for my pet attack. I also use it for casting Soulfire right now, currently. And I also use it for my succubus to whiplash or my fel hunter to devour magic. So you can do all these things at once. You can cast a spell at the same time and have your pet do something at the same time with the same key. So instead of having two keys, use one key to whiplash and to cast your Soulfire at the same time and to send your pet to attack. And if you're not in combat, you also fish. Or I have it for my Looterrain. I'm an engineer, so I have this item called a Looterrain. So I can just click the same button and I can loot. Did I actually loot that? Yeah, I looted it and I fished. Holy shit, I didn't know you could do that. So one button, fished and looted, because I wasn't in combat and these conditions were met. I think I'm just about done here. I'm just gonna see if I have anything else. There's some other simple things for mounting. Most people just use the random mount button that they've given us, but I like to use this one for myself. If I'm in combat, I put down my horde flag of victory. Now this makes it really easy to, so my same button that I'm mounting with will put down the horde flag of victory on someone after I kill him. So after you kill a player, you just push that. I push the same, for me it's shift space for mounting. I do shift space, it puts down the horde victory. Otherwise it mounts me up and I'm ready to go on to the next person. I'm using Pokedex, which is a add-on for my mount, for toggling what mount I use. So that's what this PD is. You have to use this PD only if you have the add-on Pokedex. And you have the ability to dismount with the same key. It tells your pet to follow you if they're not following you. It helps you get out of combat sooner. And cast lesser availability, that is for my succubus. So the same key will tell my pet to follow me if he's currently in combat. Okay, follow me because I want to mount up. I'm trying to get out of combat. If I'm in combat. If I'm not in combat, it'll mount me up right away. It'll tell my pet to go invisible. You know, so you can use one key to do several things at once. And yeah, if I'm in combat still, then it'll put down my horde flag of victory, hopefully on the body of someone I just slain. Here's a quick one. This works no matter what. Without an add-on, it will hide your minimap. It's very useful. I'll show you how it works. I don't have it hotkeyed right now, but here's my minimap in the bottom right corner. You click the button, your minimap's gone. Now, I used to use this a lot. I don't use it anymore, and I'll tell you why. I used to use it to hide the map when I'm in a battleground. So when you're in a battleground, you don't need this map because we use an add-on called Reporter. If you don't have this add-on called Reporter, you should get it. I'm going to go do a video about different add-ons I use. But there's an add-on called Reporter, like it looks like this, Reporter. And what it does is when you're in a battleground, it gives you a mini map of the battleground. So instead of being in a battleground and have to open your map all the time, which I have done in the past, I'm trying to get the habit of not doing that because it doesn't make for a good video. and it just wastes your time. What do you want to push map all the time? Well, map. Nobody wants to see that. Instead of pushing map all the time, you have a full mini map of the entire battleground on your right side, and that's with the add-on Reporter. And now what Reporter does, so I don't need to use this button anymore, is Reporter will hide your mini map on its own. It's built in. It will just hide it on its own. So get the add-on Reporter, and you won't even need this. Otherwise, you could use that. I'm gonna go through see if I have anything else. I think I'm just about done here. If you guys like this video, please like and subscribe. I'm gonna do a video on my add-on soon for patch 8.0.1, the pre-BfA patch. And I'm also gonna upload some videos of some PvP. I think I'm gonna do some videos of some duels and maybe some arenas and some world PvP pretty soon. Not much else going on here. You can always make little macros. Like I like my slow fall icon to be the slow fall for mage, and this is the potion of slow fall, which is a very rare potion, and you can use that. I'm just flip through here and see if I'm missing anything. Now I found these online. I'm not actually using them because I'm using Pokédex, but these are two macros that work, or you can just Google them for summoning random flying mounts. This one will let you banish if you have the mouse over. So here's a little if command I didn't talk about yet, but it's target equals mouse over. So this way you can banish a pet, so another Warlock's pet. By the way, banishing Warlock's pet is really useful. If you're ever doing a duel, a one-on-one against a Warlock, you should always banish their pet. It's so, especially against a Demonology lock. Okay, banish their pet. Well, this add-on will let you banish their pet just by mouse overing them. It'll really screw them if you banish their pet, man. Especially those spell lock pets, Fel Hunters. So just having the mouse over them, target equals mouse over, as long as you can harm the target, it will banish them. And in this case, I also have it. This probably doesn't work because I don't think you can put icons on enemy pets, to be honest. So I don't think this part of the macro works. But I do use that sometimes. Target last target. If you can't harm them, you can use your trinkets. 13 and 14 are your trinkets. 6 soul bag. That's if you have class hall right now in Legion. 6 soul bag is one of the buffs you get for one of your followers that follows you around. And I think we're just about done. Not much else to show. Here's another hide the critters. This one hides the critters. I have it under control N. So if you want to turn your critters on or off, this is for pictures. If you want to take pictures or screenshots, or if you're trying to look for a certain critter, say you do pet battles or something like that. And that's about it. Please like this video and subscribe. Thanks for watching.